Along a 25-mile stretch of Interstate 45 southeast of Houston, Texas, something terrible happened for decades. Young women and girls vanished. Their bodies were found in remote fields, wooded areas, and drainage ditches. The area became known as the Texas Killing Fields, a perfect place to kill and get away with it. Since the early 1970s, over 30 bodies have been discovered. Most of the victims were between 12 and 25 years old. Some were as young as 12. Few of these murders have ever been solved. Who was responsible? Why this place? And why do the victims remain forgotten? Welcome to the channel. The Texas Killing Fields is a title used to describe the area along Interstate 45 southeast of Houston, Texas. Since the early 1970s, 34 bodies have been found along this corridor. The specific area known as the Texas Killing Fields is a 25-acre patch of land in League City, Texas, where 4 women were found between 1983 and 1991. But the murders extend far beyond that single location. The isolation of the area, with its drainage ditches, wooded fields, and refineries, made it ideal for killers who wanted to dispose of their victims without being detected. Victims were often last seen near the highway, hitchhiking or walking to convenience stores. The I-45 corridor became synonymous with death, a place where young women disappeared and were never seen alive again. The murders began in 1971. In June, 13-year-old Colette Wilson disappeared from a bus stop in Alvin, Texas. She was dropped off by her band director and vanished. Her body was found 5 months later near Addicks Reservoir. In July, 14-year-old Brenda Jones was last seen walking to Galveston Hospital near I-45. Her body was found floating in Galveston Bay the next day. In August, 2 more teenagers, 14-year-old Rhonda Johnson and 13-year-old Sharon Shaw, disappeared from Galveston Beach. They were last seen walking along Seawall Boulevard. Their bodies were found months later in marshes near Clear Lake. These early murders established a pattern that would repeat itself for decades. The victims were young, vulnerable, and often last seen alone near the highway. The killer or killers had found their hunting ground. The summer of 1971 saw an unprecedented number of disappearances in the Galveston area. In November, 15-year-old Debbie Ackerman and 15-year-old Maria Talbot Johnson were last seen hitchhiking near a Galveston ice cream shop. Witnesses reported seeing a man in a white van stop and pick up the girls. 2 days later, their bound and partially nude bodies were found in Turner's Bayou near Texas City. They had been sexually assaulted and murdered. In November, 12-year-old Allison Ann Craven vanished from her Houston apartment while running errands for her mother. 3 months later, police found her partial remains in a nearby field, scattered across different locations near I-45. The string of murders terrified the community. Parents kept their daughters home, but the killings continued. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the murders continued. In January 1973, 16-year-old Kimberly Pitchford was last seen at Dobie High School in Houston while waiting for a driving test. Her body was found in a ditch in Angleton 2 days later. In September 1974, 12-year-old Brooks Bracewell and 14-year-old Georgia Geer vanished from a convenience store off I-45. Police initially classified them as runaways and did not investigate foul play. Partial remains of Bracewell were found in 1976 but not connected to her disappearance until 1981. In May 1977, 12-year-old Susan Bowers vanished while walking from her grandmother's house to get her swimsuit. Her body was found 2 years later in Alta Loma. The victims kept coming and the killer kept killing. The community lived in fear. Between 1983 and 1991, 4 women were found in a specific field in League City, Texas, giving the area its infamous name. In August 1983, 20-year-old Susan Eads vanished on her way to work. Her strangled body was found the next day. In October 1983, 25-year-old Heidi Villarreal Fye vanished from a League City convenience store. Her skull was found by a dog in 1984. 16-year-old Laura Miller vanished in September 1984 from the same convenience store. Her body was found 17 months later, just 60 feet from where Villarreal Fye had been found. In July 1991, 34-year-old Donna Prudhomme vanished. Her body was found in September. The field was small, remote, and isolated. It became the burial ground for 4 women, and it gave its name to decades of horror. In January 1981, the bodies of a young couple were found in northern Harris County. The heavily decomposed bodies of a teenage girl and a young man were discovered in a boggy wooded area near Walleysville Road. They had been murdered. The girl had been strangled. The young man had been bound, gagged, and beaten to death. Their infant daughter, who had been with them, was never found. For 40 years, they were known only as John and Jane Doe, their identities lost to time and decomposition. But in 2021, forensic genealogists identified them as Tina Gail Clouse and Harold Dean Clouse Jr. In 2022, investigators made an even more astonishing discovery. Their daughter Holly Marie, who had been an infant when they were murdered, was found alive in Oklahoma. She had been adopted as a baby. A cold case murder became a story of unexpected hope. Over the decades, investigators identified several suspects. In 1972, Michael Lloyd Self, a gas station operator and convicted sex offender, became a suspect in the murders of Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw. After hours of interrogation, he confessed and was convicted. But his confessions showed great discrepancies, and he claimed he had been tortured into confessing. He died in prison in 2000. Edward Harold Bell, a known exhibitionist arrested 12 times for exposing himself to children, was identified as a suspect in the 1970s. In 1998, he wrote letters confessing to murdering multiple girls. He was never charged and died in 2019. Arthur Raymond Davis Jr. was matched to DNA from Susan Eads' body, but died in a car accident in 1984. Clyde Hedrick was named in the 2022 Netflix documentary as a suspect in multiple murders. He was convicted of manslaughter in Ellen Beason's death, but never charged with the other murders. None of these men were definitively linked to all the crimes. Despite dozens of murders over 4 decades, few convictions have been secured. The reasons are complex and troubling. Many of the victims were marginalized: runaways, hitchhikers, young women from troubled homes. Police initially treated many disappearances as runaway cases rather than potential murders. Evidence was often lost or degraded by the time bodies were found. DNA technology did not exist during the early murders of the 1970s. By the time modern forensic techniques were available, the evidence was gone. Bodies had decomposed. Witnesses had moved away. The victims, many of them poor or transient, did not receive the same attention as other cases. The investigation was hampered by jurisdictional issues between multiple police departments. The result was a decades-long failure to catch the killer or killers, leaving dozens of families without answers. The I-45 corridor between Houston and Galveston is ideal for predators. The highway connects 2 major cities, providing anonymity for killers and victims alike. The area is dotted with convenience stores, bus stops, and isolated spots where young women were last seen. The refineries, drainage ditches, and wooded fields provided perfect places to dispose of bodies. After visiting some of the sites, Ami Cannon Mann, director of the 2011 film Texas Killing Fields, observed, "You could actually see the refineries that are in the south end of League City. You could see I-45. But if you yelled, no one would necessarily hear you. And if you ran, there wouldn't necessarily be anywhere to go. The geography made murder easy. Getting away with it was even easier." Over 30 victims have been identified along the I-45 corridor. Their names are a roll call of tragedy: Colette Wilson, Brenda Jones, Rhonda Johnson, Sharon Shaw, Debbie Ackerman, Maria Johnson, Allison Craven, Kimberly Pitchford, Brooks Bracewell, Georgia Gier, Susan Bowers, Tina Clouse, Dean Clouse, Susan Eads, Heidi Villarreal-Fye, Laura Miller, Ellen Beason, Michelle Thomas, Audrey Cook, Donna Prudhomme, Shelley Sykes. Most were between 12 and 25 years old. Some were as young as 12. Many shared similar physical features. They were runaways, hitchhikers, young women trying to get from one place to another. Their deaths were often violent: strangulation, sexual assault, gunshot wounds. Their bodies were dumped in fields, ditches, and marshes. They were forgotten by society until their bodies were found. The families of the victims have spent decades searching for answers. Tim Miller, father of Laura Miller, founded Texas Equu Search, a nonprofit dedicated to finding missing persons. He spent years searching the fields for his daughter's body, refusing to give up hope. Laura Smithers' parents established the Laura Recovery Center after their 12-year-old daughter vanished in 1997. The parents of Tina and Dean Clouse searched for their infant daughter Holly, never knowing she had been adopted and was alive in Oklahoma. The families have lobbied for changes in the law and pushed for better investigation techniques. They have refused to let their daughters be forgotten, even as the years turned into decades and the bodies remained unidentified. The Texas killing fields became the subject of two major documentaries. In 2011, a feature film titled Texas Killing Fields was released, starring Sam Worthington and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. The film was loosely based on the murders and focused on the lead police detectives, Brian Goetzius and Mike Land, who dedicated their careers to solving the mysteries. The filmmakers hired the detectives as consultants. In 2022, Netflix released Crime Scene, The Texas Killing Fields, a three-part docuseries. The series was the top docuseries on Netflix, with over 23 million hours viewed in its first week. Both projects brought renewed attention to the cold cases and the families still seeking answers. The films reminded the public that the victims were not forgotten. In recent years, new technologies have provided breakthroughs. In 2019, DNA technology helped identify two victims, Audrey Cook and Donna Prudhomme, who had been found in the 1980s but never identified. Their identities were revealed using family tree DNA and genetic genealogy. In 2021, forensic genealogists identified Tina and Dean Clouse, whose bodies had been found in 1981. The same techniques that have solved other cold cases are being applied to the Texas killing fields. But many murders remain unsolved. The killer or killers may have died decades ago, or they may still be walking free, having escaped justice for over 40 years. The investigation continues, driven by the families who refuse to give up. The Texas killing fields left a legacy of fear along I-45. Young women in the area grew up knowing the stories, warning each other about hitchhiking and walking alone near the highway. The murders exposed failures in policing that echoed through the decades. The initial dismissals of missing persons reports, treating runaways as less important than other cases. The jurisdictional chaos between multiple police departments that meant no one took ownership of the investigation. The lost evidence, the degraded DNA, the witnesses who were never interviewed. The Texas killing fields became a symbol of what happens when victims are marginalized and investigations are botched. The fields may be quiet now. Bodies are no longer found, but the fear remains, and the families still wait for justice. Since the early 1970s, over 30 young women and girls have been murdered along the I-45 corridor in Texas. Colette Wilson was 13 when she vanished. Brenda Jones was 14. Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw were teenagers. Laura Miller was 16. Donna Prudhomme was 34. Their ages ranged from 12 to 25. Their bodies were found in fields, ditches, and marshes. Their killers walked free. Few cases were solved. Few families received answers. The Texas killing fields remain one of America's most notorious cold cases, a reminder of the vulnerability of young women and the failures of law enforcement to protect them. The fields are quiet now, but the victims are not forgotten. Their names are spoken. Their stories are told, and somewhere along that highway, the killer or killers may still be walking free. The Texas killing fields, over 30 victims, decades of murder, a handful of convictions, and the question that remains unanswered: who killed them all? If you have information about these cold cases, contact the FBI or local Texas law enforcement. Subscribe for more cold case investigations into history's greatest mysteries. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video.